Yeah?
Yeah. My number 2 then is Tomb Raider. I didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. It didn't come through in time. But in fact, I did the review for Video Gamer, who didn't sign the original NDA. As you may or may not have read that Square Enix sent out. So their review ended up going up later, hence me getting the game later. Hence why we didn't get to talk about it last week. But yeah, I played it over the weekend and finished it, and was very impressed. Ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. And I mean, the game is lavish to a level which is kind of amazing that it's on 360. It looks just phenomenal. Really enjoyed it. It's very compelling. The story is good. All that bollocks that I said at the time was bollocks. I said wait till the game comes out and then make your decision. You know, all the sexism stuff with Lara, all that nonsense. Turns out it was nonsense, and everyone agrees it's nonsense. So well done for kicking up a fuss about that, everybody who did. Don't review marketing if you're a video game journalist. That's my opinion, and I'll stick to that. Anyway, as fun as the game is, it is sort of primarily a sort of shooter climber as opposed to a Tomb Raider. While I was a bit disappointed in the lack of puzzles, this is the only one since maybe Tomb Raider 1 that I've actually finished. So say what you want about that. I've admired the previous ones from Crystal Dynamics, but barely even got through them at all. So, you know, whatever. The shooting itself is actually pretty good. It gets a lot better as well as you play. The climbing stuff is cool. It doesn't really have any peril to it. It's just kind of a case of pushing in the direction you need to go and pressing the button, as it always is in these types of games. But they do amazing stuff with the surrounding carnage to make you feel like you are in peril to a degree, and the stuff that goes on is just absolutely spectacular. And where it may lack interactivity in certain ways, then there is a lot of just kind of pushing up on the stick while the game plays around you. I was constantly engaged and enjoying the game, and happy to get through to the end, and it was a decent story too. Your supporting cast of characters aren't great, but although the big guy looks exactly like someone you and I went to university with. Anyway, it was cool, and then I like the stuff that, you know, the optional tombs that are in there, the puzzle stuff. I kind of like the fact that it is optional as well, so it doesn't hamper the pace of the game. But they were all cool, and they do really good stuff. There's shitloads of stuff to collect, way too much stuff, load of bollocks really, but I think they take some cues from the Batman games and make that stuff kind of have its own story in some ways, and different ones have different narratives, and also they're not just like dotted on the floor and you just walk around collecting them like fucking Banjo-Tooie. They have their own gameplay, and some of the stuff you can only collect once you've got the gear from later on, Metroid style. I thought that was all really good, and Crystal Dynamics knows what they're doing. I wish that the game was perhaps a little more meaty and hardcore and a little less flighty at times, but that's the game that they made, and you know, it's bloody good fun.
I haven't finished it. I think I'm probably halfway through, maybe a little bit further along than that. I think as soon as it started, I was like, "This is classy." The intro FMV is. I mean, for a moment, I was like, "Is that video?" Like, I properly sat forward a couple of times because it looks that good. I think it's really good. I mean, to be honest, the last 2 or 3 Tomb Raiders, they basically reinvented themselves in the wake of Uncharted. And this is the same, but yeah, like you said, the optional stuff's quite good. It's the gamiest game I've played in ages, because, you know, every single device they could use to keep you playing. So everything is upgradable. There's looting, XP-based unlocks and stuff. There are a fucking ridiculous number of collectibles. Examine the artifacts and find stuff, burn posters. You're always doing stuff. And I think it's really. I mean, I basically think it's absolutely superb. And when I'm playing, I'm just like, this is a cut above. But it's that classic 8 out of 10 Edge magazine that they always used to be, back in the day, used to be very good at gauging, where something was basically a 10 out of 10, but it did nothing new, so they couldn't justify giving it any higher than an 8. I think it's great. I think the actress who plays Lara Croft is really good. And there are a couple of moments that could have been terrible, like at the very beginning of the game. This is not a spoiler. You have to kill a deer to get food. And she kills it and she kneels down and she's like, sorry. And the way she does it, I was like, that could have been really, really just lame. And it was actually really good. And there's several moments like that. The one thing I didn't know, I mean, people have spoken a lot about this in a couple of reviews I've scanned, and even Rhianna Pratchett spoke about it today, I think. It is quite jarring how the really effective way when Lara gets her first kill, and it really affects her, and it's really, really well done, and then 2 seconds later you're executing people, and you know, you're just basically going on a killing spree. That doesn't really sit. It doesn't really sit right. They are those events. I mean, the fact that happens and then it just turns. It's like, okay, we've got permission to turn it to an action game now. I thought that was genuinely quite.
It's really tough, isn't it? This is something that I talked about in my review, and I said that you're going to have to decide how much it bothers you, because it could, if you let it could spoil the whole game for you, because there is the real dissonance there between how they set it up and how it's written, and then suddenly you turn basically into the world's most effective killer of all time.
Yeah,
the greatest soldier there's ever been.
Rambo.
Yeah, but even more so, like Rambo 3, Rambo.
Yeah,
and you know, it's difficult to see someone so slender choking a man out from behind easily, or there is a bit reasonably early on where you're underneath someone who's trying to choke you or something, and you grab their wrists and you force them upwards, and it's like a 6'2" man, stuff like that. When you set up, I can believe it's fine because it's a video game and it's fun and no problem. But when you're setting up a story that is based ultimately in reality, leaps like that, if that happened in a film, you'd be like, psh, come off it. So but it's a credit in some ways that I even thought about it like that, because they had to have done good work in the first place to make it even a thing that would even be an issue. But you're totally right, of course, and I just don't know what the solution is, because you need gameplay. So it's the same as Uncharted for me. I mean, the guy's a fucking killer.
Yeah. But they could have staggered it a little bit more. It's instantaneous. Then it's like slow motion, boom, boom, boom. It's just like they could have staggered it a little bit more than they did.
Yeah.
The other thing that bothered me is that the quick time events are really easy to fail, and when they go to all this trouble to make you care about Lara, the fact that she can die and then you just have to redo it. Really, for example, the attempted rape in inverted commas, which is it's not even implied. It doesn't happen. It's something that which could potentially happen. A guy's, you know, she's one-on-one with a guy. She has to escape. This is very, very early on, by the way. A QTE comes up, and I failed it first time.
Yeah.
Because it was quite, you know, you needed to react very, very quickly, and then you're forced to watch 5 seconds of her being strangled, and I was like, I don't know why it bothered me so much more than it would if, like, you know, Marcus Phoenix got his fucking head sniped off. But it did. I just thought that was maybe it's just because the QTs were a little bit more difficult than perhaps they should have been. Anyway,
that didn't really bother me so much. I guess I'd rather, if you're going to show that, because the way she dies a lot of times is quite gruesome, and I don't think there's anything to do with it being gendered. They just are quite gruesome for a character. I'd rather that kind of stuff was because of my interactions that were a bit more sophisticated than QTE. You know, so, you know, if I fucking died in a complicated shootout, or I fell on a particularly tricky sort of puzzle-based climbing bit, then, as opposed to just missing a button press. But it's not something that really bothered me that much.
Yeah, I don't know what it did. I just sit back and I thought, what that's. I think it's probably just sort of fatigue with QTEs, because I failed it and then I'm back to 5 seconds previous and I do it again, and it's like there must be another way to do it. And actually, some of the action scenes, which again normally very effective, almost completely consistently, but there are moments where you can fail a quick time event or fail a jump, but there's something underneath you so you can keep going, and then know that if you fuck up again, then you're in trouble. Just adds a little bit of excitement to it.
Yeah.
Like, boom, you're dead. I think we have to stop doing that, because it's completely pointless.
It is, basically.
Yeah, but yeah. Other than that, I thought I thought the action was really good. I like the way there's very, very Uncharted style achievement / trophies, which makes you utilise all of the weapons, which is fun. But I just basically think it's absolutely superb, and it never treads water. It's really well paced.
It's very well paced.
I always knew what was happening in the story, and things happen, and there's big, you know, it's like a 3-act movie almost, and it's just really well paced. It doesn't tread water, as I said. It's just, I mean, I basically think it's absolutely superb, but don't expect it to do anything particularly new.
Yeah.
I've got to get out of here.